is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
So JJ Wang, I think a couple things. Number one, happy National Tight Ends Day. A day for all. I hope you celebrate it with your family and yours and just had a glorious day of tight end jubilation. I'm wearing my Tight End University shirt for those that are listening to us and can't see our handsome made for radio faces. But happy National Tight End Day, brother.
Happy National Tight End Day. Probably my least favorite day of the year, probably. I'm not going to lie.
It's a spectacular day, a day of celebration, the day George Kittle created, and he doesn't get to play on it this year. But I do have to thank the NFL for making me look the fool, as I said Thursday doing game-by-game preview, how these games were so terrible. And honestly, I watched – as we always say, we always record before the Sunday night game because of life and everything. I haven't seen my Dolphins play yet, and I could be crying tomorrow or celebrating, but this is one of the best days. Most of the games were pretty good, competitive games. Stat lines were different, but as far as watching a football game, there was some good football today.
I mean, I'm going to have to take your word for it, and you let me, if you have any interesting notes about the game today, fill me in, because today was another day of me watching football through my fantasy app. So I got all the fantasy numbers, the fantasy players, but I just don't have the highlights to back them up. So again, you'll have to come in there and help me out whether I'm wrong or right here.
And using that really helps me tell a lot of people that they're like, well, I just can't get fantasy. I said, you don't have to know football to be good at fantasy. Fantasy
baseball.
All numbers. Yeah, it's all if you like math and you can think in numbers. That's baseball especially. That's how I made it through baseball season. I only watched my team, but I could watch and pay attention to it. And it was just, but yeah, you can do that, and you can watch highlights, go back through, because I know you run through highlights throughout the week and things. But
yeah, I mean, look at numbers, the last 3 week projections. You got to do. If you don't know anything
research
about football, you got to do a little bit of research, but it's not enough research to where it's going to ruin your day. 5-6 minutes a day, and that's all you really need to be able to play fantasy football and be productive. All you got to do is literally pay attention and set lineups, follow rankings. If you're new to fantasy, rankings do help. Yeah, follow rankings, and you'll do fine, because once you start becoming an expert, we are, you start thinking way too much about this, that, matchups, this, and all that nonsense. But yeah, anybody can play fantasy. You don't have to know football to play fantasy.
Nah, just pay attention. And let's be honest, everybody for at least 5 minutes a day sits on the toilet. So that is a great time to research. I get my best research done while I'm there. And
yeah, I know some people don't have a lot of time, but I don't want to say it irks me, but when I ask somebody, hey, do you want to play fantasy football? They're like, I don't know, I just ain't got the time. I would rather you just tell me you don't want to play.
Yes, that makes so much more sense.
Just don't say you don't have time, because that's a lie. Because I know they probably sit down and watch YouTube videos, TikTok videos for 5 minutes a day. So
yeah, it's fine. But now that we're bashing our friends who give us baloney excuses, let's go in to the week that was with, my favorite drop and the creepiest one we do. And I got to make sure that before I do that, I share our sound as we are doing this. So I will stall for a moment, but I'm very excited. I've got a new surprise for you coming later.
All right, hope it's not as creepy as this one's coming up.
It's not.
Pleasure.
And pain. I have this thought that one week I'm going to have her record it again, and I'm going to go, pleasure. And she's going to, that'll be hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know about, I don't know if hilarious is the right word.
It would be pretty funny. To see your eyes the first time.
I'm looking excited. I'm excited.
Okay, give us the good, the bad, the indifferent, and let's go through this day that was.
Right. So I'm going to start with the pleasure here first. The first pleasure I'm going to go with is like a team pleasure. We haven't really talked about them a whole lot this season. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. So we know Patrick Mahomes finally had a game where we can say Patrick Mahomes looks like the best quarterback. And I'm not saying he's not, but he's finally had a fantasy football game. Travis Kelce finally had, that fantasy football game that makes us say, wow, hey, Travis Kelce's the number one tight end. Pacheco did his thing. Not great, but, solid. But the guy I want to ask you about is Rashee Rice. Is Rashee Rice
Knew it was
turning
coming.
in turning into that wide receiver one for the Kansas City Chiefs? And it looked like that offense was missing for the first part of the season.
I had a conversation with Scott, who's been on our podcast the last couple of years, and he was talking about some trades and stuff for him, and I said, "Nah, I'm mad on Rashee Rice," and then he heard me, just like everybody heard me this week. He decided to be like you and went berserk. I mean, he looks like a drop off. I think he's a guy you want to get and have in your lineup. I don't. I still struggle to put him more than a low end wide receiver two because of what Mahomes does. Like, he does have this guy now. So Rashee Rice, I could see him being Tyler Lockett, where he has those weeks where he just goes bonker balls for us.
I
But
see him
then
as
he has
more.
those.
I see him as a more consistent player than Tyler Lockett. I don't see the ceiling of Tyler Lockett, but I don't see the floor of Tyler Lockett. I see him more of like that consistent. That instead of a 30-0 game, I see him more of like a 15-point a week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we got a small sample size, so I mean, he had what? He had 5 for 60. He caught 5 of 6 targets and got a touchdown. So without the touchdown, he had 11 PPR or 8 half point PPR. So yeah, I said half point. I said the same thing twice.
Yeah,
Half point
easily.
PPR.
Yeah.
I love when people bust people shops for that. So but it's like with anybody though. It's if you don't score, it doesn't matter. But I mean, Travis Kelce had 12 for $179, which I'm sure will hit, but without the touchdown, it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
that's why I have him low end wide receiver too, because
Oh yeah, I'm not saying he's a wide receiver one. I'm saying he's
yeah.
growing into that reliable wide receiver that Pat Mahomes can rely that he relies on. And once he relies on, he's going to start getting more and more targets, more valuable targets.
I mean, he's gonna need him soon.
Absolutely. So sticking with quarterbacks here, I got 3 quarterbacks. I want you to tell me which one. No, not Lamar, because we know Lamar. We know
He's so good.
Lamar. We know he's good. Yeah, obviously you can't talk about everybody. So I got 3 quarterbacks here. Tell me who you're going to start next week. If you've got one of these guys, you got to start one. We got Gardner Minshew, killed it somehow against the Browns defense. We got Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor just always a good quarterback. And then we got Mac Jones, who somehow beats the Buffalo Bills. I don't understand. Buffalo Bills are so weird. I don't get it. So going into next week, which one of these guys are you starting?
Well, the guy I'm going to start is the guy that I wanted to share this really cool stat they said on the telecast. That's Gardner Minshew. Mac Jones is a hot mess. He just does it. Yeah, whatever. And then I just brain farted. Tyrod Taylor won't be starting next week. Daniel Jones probably be back. Tyler, I would sneak in as a super flex. Both of them, if I need a super flex, especially with bye weeks up, you're going to play them. Gardner, I'd be more comfortable as super flex. Gardner threw. Let me get his exact. Do you have his exact line with you?
Oh, no, I don't even.
Yeah, all the box scores here. Okay. Gardner Minshew, let's make sure I get this right. Gardner Minshew threw for 305 yards. Gardner Minshew has 8 games with over 300 yards. Gardner Minshew, in those 8 games, 0-8. That's poor dude. Poor dude. But, I mean, Gardner Minshew, I mean, he's still got knucklehead plays, the interceptions, the fumbles.
It's Gardner Minshew. This is what Gardner Minshew's been his whole career. I mean,
are you going to hit what Gardner Minshew's making amazing in a moment?
What he's making?
Who he's making amazing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that was the quarterback. I got one pain as far as quarterback goes, and it's my first for real or faux real of the week. So we got Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson sucking and being a terrible quarterback for the rest of his career. Is that for real or is that faux real?
You asked me today on the end of October 2023. I think my buddy and I were texting prior to this. It might be for real. Like, we're arguing, is it the worst contract of all time? And I'm like, it's right up there with Hainsworth. It's right up there with the Dolphins signing Culpepper versus Breeze. Like, it's a different scenario, but Hainsworth's contract with inflation probably is pretty close to being this. Those are the 2 most terrible contracts in the history of the world. They're stuck with him. He's got to get his head out of his butt and start thinking. I mean, he got knocked out. I mean, he only had 5 passes, but he just looked terrible. Like,
Yeah, he has. I mean, he had like one game here, one game there, but overall, just absolutely terrible. All
Worst
right,
contract
that's
ever.
enough
Yeah,
about. That's enough about. One more pain that I didn't want to mention, not to get into. That was Jared Goff. Kind of like the first bad game in a really long time, but I mean, it is
that
Jared
entire
Goff.
team, man, except for one
Yeah,
person.
this kind of stuff bound to happen. All right, moving over to running backs. So I got sets of running backs here. We're going to go through. I got teammates to start out with. Let me know which one of these guys are you going to feel more comfortable with starting. We got in Cleveland. We got Kareem Hunt, who seems to be getting average points, and we got Jerome Ford. Up and down, kind of like touchdown or bust kind of player. What you got both of these guys on your roster? You can only start one. Tell me who DJ Dubs is going to start next week.
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt had 10 for 31. The stat line for Jerome Ford is 11 for 74 with a long of 69. So he had
Doesn't
10
matter
for
how you
5.
get it, man.
Yeah, he had 10 for 5, but that just the consistency of it. Like I think Kareem Hunt's going to be their touchdown guy, the guy that scores a touchdown. So if you're looking between them in an offense, it's not spectacular. I'll go with the guy that has the better chance of scoring the touchdowns is where I'm going to go. I'm not going to do that with the next guy. I know where you're
Makes
going.
sense. I don't know, maybe not. All right, so the next guys, we're going to go to Los Angeles Rams here real quick.
Oh,
We
that's
got
all.
Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman. Of course, these guys are probably going to be the starters. And if you happen to pick both of these guys up and you need to stick one in your flex, who do you got to start?
Uh, I don't want to start either of these guys. I think I'll probably start Darrell, knowing that they said they were going to start Royce, but Darrell he's a system guy for Los Angeles. They dumped him because they were starting to get better with Cam and Karen went, and I just think he's going to get more. I mean, he got the most carries. His yards per carry was garbage, but I think he knows them, they know him, and they're going to, go with who they know. Is my
Yeah,
thought.
that makes sense. I'd probably go with Henderson as well. I got another two guys are not teammates. Backup running backs thrust into the starting spot. Performed really well today. We got Donta Foreman and Gus Edwards. Both of these guys I'm going to start next week, and you only got one spot. Who are you going to stick in that spot?
I don't have next week's schedule up. Do you know who they play?
Oh, I don't even look at
To be
that, dude.
honest, it would come down to who they play without me pulling that up. I think I'm gonna go with Foreman because is Field. I haven't heard the Fields. If Fields is back yet or
Fields
not.
is going to be out for a few weeks from what I
Okay, so
hear.
with Fields not back, Foreman will get more carries, whereas Gus will lose carries to Lamar. Is my theory with those two. Like I had Gus on my bench, and I went against Foreman a couple times. It wasn't good. Shout
Yeah,
out on
I'd probably go.
a pleasure. Shout out to Shepherd University with their first winning starting quarterback. Good job, Tyler Badger.
Kudos to him. All right, going over to the pains. I just got well. First off, the biggest pain was Bijan Robinson coming over. Evidently, he was sick and a stomach bug or
Yeah.
something. I wish I would have known that. But hey, shout out to Tyler Algier. Finally, got some
Cordell
carries.
Patterson's good too.
Yeah, I mean, had a decent game. So I'm going to move into my second for real or faux real. I got two mainstays, two mainstay RB1s here having a struggle of a season. We got Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler. Both of these guys finishing outside of the RB1 territory. Is that for real or is that faux real?
But Austin Eckler is faux real because the Chargers, even though the record doesn't show it, still have a decent offense. They just ran up against the buzzsaw of the Chiefs, and he's just getting healthy. So he's getting healthy. He limped a little bit at the beginning of the game. I saw him go off, and he was hobbling a little bit. So there's still a little bit within that injury. Josh Jacobs is on the team that might get Caleb Williams. So the Raiders look terrible.
From the way Caleb Williams is playing right now, I don't know if he's going that high.
Yeah, well, he's not going to come out. He's going to make more money in college, right? But they're going to
Yeah,
get one of those top quarterbacks. I mean, really, I think I want. Is it the kid out of Washington? I think he's the kid that's impressing me as far as care. Like, there's a hope.
He seems to have some injury issues.
Yeah.
That's not going to hey, like that doesn't look well coming into the NFL. But I feel like he's not going to be like that first round quarterback. I think he's going to slide a lot.
Well, maybe that'll help them. They'll get Marvin Harrison Jr. to be their receiver and then get him in the second. But they're going to be getting a new quarterback next year unless they keep Jimmy G because he's really good. But the team's terrible. The reason Josh Jacobs is terrible is because they're not worried about anybody. They only throw to Devontae Adams, and Jacoby Myers gets all the garbage time. Like he was my DFS guy today, got a garbage time touchdown, thank God. But they're bad. and so they're trying to stop him and not worried about it.
Yeah, so going over to wide receivers, speaking of Jacoby Myers, I got two sets of receivers here on the same team. The first guy, the top guy coming into the season, we were high on. The second, we were a little lower on. Of course, we're going to go with Las Vegas. We got Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. Now,
You say
minus
this every week.
I know, minus Devontae Adams' 35-point outburst in like week 2, he's been very, very subpar. How close is Jacoby Myers to Devontae Adams in your rankings?
They're going to be very close. They're essentially the same person to me right now. I
Yep.
mean, their stat line, other than the touchdown, ex- exact, like literally, Devontae Adams had 12 targets, 7 receptions. Jacoby Myers, 13 targets, 7 receptions. I mean, it was Brian Hoyer, so we'll see what happens as we get back to as they go through, because he's probably not playing next week. He was
Ain't
terrible.
no O'Connell, baby.
Aiden O'Connell went 10 of 13. So, um, but I don't know how they were spread amongst the two of them. So I mean, O'Connell gave Myers a touchdown, but they'll probably be close to those ones that are like, I'll put Adams slightly ahead just because he's Devontae Adams, and yeah, he's still that good. They're just the team's so bad, just like with Josh Jacobs, they're putting multiple cornerbacks on Adams, so he's got to like get between 8 people, and then Myers is taking all the leftovers.
Yep. And next crew is we're going to Jacksonville. We got Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. Is
Christian Kirk, no discussion.
No, no
Calvin Ridley's
discussion.
dead to me. He's dead to me. He's
dead.
dead.
I just wanted to hear that.
You don't play an entire game. Calvin Ridley almost had redemption. He had the most beautiful catch. I don't know if you saw that part of the game. The catch he had was so nice, but he had 1 foot out of bounds. Also, go look up a stat. Watch the Kyle Pitts catch today. It wasn't for him. It was so good. That one where he one-handed it. It was beautiful. But no, Calvin Ridley, I think he'll be wide receiver 3 territory for me. I've got to get off that train. I've got to stop thinking it's 2019, and I'm no longer gambling on Calvin Ridley, pun intended.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go to Indianapolis. Gardner Minshew, and they're going to come up again, and we got Josh Downs. Now, the previous 2 weeks, he's had a solid game, finally coming into his own, and today he kind of explodes. So, for my third for real or faux real, is Josh Downs for real or faux real? I mean, at least as like a wide receiver 3 / low end wide receiver 2, right?
For the rest of 2023, I think he's for real. As you mentioned last week, Gardner Minshew is going to sling it. He has been the recipient. They were talking during the show. They're like, it appears as though Josh Downs is his favorite target, even though Pittman had 1 less target. They only had 11 targets between the two of them, 6 for Downs, 5 for Pittman. But he looked solid. I don't think I got him on a couple of rookie drafts because I had the pick availability and I traded up one to get him. But I don't think we expected this. We expect him to be a dart throw kind of guy, but he looks good. Like I started him this week and it was because I had to, but it was spectacular. I had him in my DFS lineup and I pulled him last minute because I'm a moron. But I think he's for real for 2023. We'll talk in off season what we think Anthony Richardson will do, if he's going to pick up where they left off or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I got a pain here, and then let's slide back to a pleasure because of course they're on the same team. Cooper Kupp, bad game. I'm sure a lot of people like to hear that, but when we see that bad game by Kupp, we also see that good game by Nakua. So I asked the question last week: is Nakua a safe start? We kind of said no. But after this game, you kind of say yes. So, I mean, going into next week, you got to start him, right?
I think he is Robert Woods now.
He's earned it. I think he's earned a place in your lineup every week.
I don't think I set him. Did I set him on my super team? I might. No, I played him on my super team too. But I might have set him one place because I had better options. But I think he's gonna be Robert Woods. If you remember, like Cooper Kupp, This is weird. Like that, I think he had 7 targets. Nakua had 12. So I think it was probably the Steelers. Their defense probably did something because they're the Steelers that took care of Cooper Kupp. And Nakua just took advantage of him. But remember how Robert Woods was good? Then really good and then good. But, I mean, Nakua had the bad. I mean, you're going to play him, and I think you're going to have to be willing to accept these stat lines because it's cool looking at them side by side. They are the same. Like Nakua, if you can get him dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to accept these kind of numbers from Cup, you kind of got to accept these kind of numbers from Nakua too. Because I think now I'm not going to say they're even, but I mean I feel like
Yeah.
he's
Oh, no,
kind of
I
earned
think
it
the
up.
future of Nakua is going to be very interesting because it's
Yeah.
interesting that they call him what Puka La Cupera or something like that.
Oh, I don't know.
They're built exactly the same. I saw them side by side, like, whoa, that is creepy. And he's going to learn from this guy. The sky is the limit. He
Oh,
could be
and he's got Sean McVay. I think that's the most important
two,
part.
3 years. We could be talking about him and Amon-Ra St. Brown at like wide receiver 3 and 4.
Yeah, maybe it's
Quite
possible.
possibly.
So there was a Jackson Smith and Jigba sighting
I
today.
started him.
So I was about to ask, is that tickling your fancy with him at all going forward, or is it still just reverting back?
DK. DK is why I went middle of the day. I zagged Jackson Smith. He was 3,900 on DraftKings, so I put him in. I didn't start him on my team. I had him, but he is their number 3 for now, learning the game. He's getting more targets each week, so keep an eye on him. Monitor if he's on your waiver wire, he better not be. But if you can get him on the cheap, pick him up because when I saw DK was out, I was like, JSN's going to have a good game. I mean, his game wasn't spectacular, but there was a JSN sighting. He's getting what his whole he 4 for 63, so it was a good game. I mean, almost as good as another guy we're going to talk about later on on the team that I'd never heard of till today. Not Tyler Lockett was worse, but it's what we thought he'd be. I don't know. I mean, DK Metcalf is why he was so good.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. DK was out.
So I mean, once
last
Tyler
minute out too.
Lockett leaves, but once one of these receiver leaves and
Oh yeah,
he's able to jump in,
always
at
believe
least
that. Yeah.
it gives you some kind of feeling that hey, this is possible. So that was it. I'm gonna do tight ends again just because I want to jump in the old time machine, take us back to like I don't know 3 years ago. The top
so
3
pretty.
tight ends: Kelsey, Andrews, Waller. We still got Kittle that can play, so he can jump in here too and make it to the top 4. But this is like the first time it's been like this in a really long time. I just wanted to mention it. I know you're a tight end guy, but I wanted to mention they're jumping in the time machine a little bit.
Well, national tight ends in our league where we can start as many players as we want from a position and we get tight end premium. Andrews got me 24.3, Kelsey got me 44.9, and Waller got me 26.3. That would beat most. That would be about a third, 2/3 of what a lot of teams get in any given week. They just crushed it. They celebrated like we should. I got an honorable mention shout out for a guy who finally showed up. Jameer Gibbs in the blowout looked really like he got what we thought he would be.
So I was going to mention him, but I just ran out of. So between him, so you got Jameer Gibbs and you got Alvin Kamara. Go on forward. Who has more fantasy points for the rest of the year?
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin
Kamara. Alvin Kamara won't lose touchdowns really to anybody, but once Montgomery comes back, Gibbs will lose touchdowns there, but Kamara will get all the catches, but he'll get more touchdowns. I mean, I think it's very comparable between the two of them, to be honest. So, but yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go. We'll see.
Surefire waste of a touchdown.
So to show how weird this week is, I literally have three. Because it was all kickers and players we've heard of. I asked if Darrell Henderson could be one or not. So the first one is the guy who had literally four less yards and the same amount of receptions as JSN. So we're going to Seattle. An 18-yard touchdown. You would think JSN. You would think Tyler Lockett. You'd think pretty much anybody except some dude who's named Jake Bobo. I don't know. But
is this the second time Bobo's been on the Surefire Waste of a Touchdown?
As you say it and I see your face, I'm thinking so. I mean, if he scored before, I'm pulling him up real quick.
I think so. I think it was. But either way.
No, it's his first. Unless they counted it before. Let's see. Yeah, it's probably his second.
But either way, it's definitely a surefire waste of a touchdown. It was a great catch, by the way. I did see that. I mean, it was a surefire waste.
He had 2 catches for 5 yards, 1 catch for 5 yards in Carolina. So, but still, it's definitely a surefire waste.
It's definitely a surefire waste of a touchdown. But now seems to be that he might be that guy that's on a multiple, because we always have that one guy that you can never start, but he's a surefire waste of a touchdown celebrity.
Yeah, we graduated someone recently, I think. Here's a guy who appeared years ago, last year maybe, but on a different team. I had him starting earlier in the year thinking he would step up when people were injured, but he didn't. 12-yard touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson. You'd think Mark Andrews? Nope. How about Bateman? Nope. Oh, maybe Odell finally did something. Nah. Zay Flowers? No. Nelson Aguilar. 12-yard touchdown pass. Not for the Raiders anymore, now for the Ravens. He was starter when he was a Raider, never as an Eagle, but nobody's starting him, right? Which would make this
surefire way for a touchdown. I knew he was still in the league, but I wasn't 100% sure that he was still in the league.
Yeah, I DFS'd him a couple weeks ago when all the receivers were out for the Ravens, and he got like 12 yards. But last one is my favorite one of the day. I'll be honest, I cheered for this guy. He was one of my favorite players not last year, but last couple years before that. I was excited to have him on the Miami Dolphins. But 1-yard touchdown pass from Mac Jones to win the game for the New England Patriots. It must be. Kendrick Bourne's been hot. No. Ramondre? No. Zeke Elliott? No. Oh, Mike Gesicki. 1-yard touchdown run. Still helping the Miami Dolphins, even though he's not there.
Yeah, and that was definitely a surefire way for a touchdown, and quite possibly the worst gritty that I have ever seen in my life.
I was just so busy jumping around, rooting, just glad to see the Bills fall 2 games. So if we would lose to the Eagles, we're still a game ahead. That's where I was. But, I promised you a little treat.
Oh, great.
The Fantasy Couriers present Super Duper Tight End Touchdowns. Happy National Tight End Day. So in honor of National Tight End Day, I just wanted to close out, since there were so few surefire ways to a touchdown, with every touchdown scored by a tight end today in honor of this spectacular holiday that we're having. Luckily, it's only 4 guys. So Mike Gesicki, 1-yard touchdown pass, as I mentioned. Mark Andrews had 2 in celebration, 11-yard pass and an 8-yard pass. Darren Waller, 15 yards, as you mentioned earlier. Gerald Everett, 7 yards from Justin Herbert. And Travis Kelce, 1 yard from Patrick Mahomes. Happy National Tight End Day, everybody.
That was all the tight end touchdowns of the day.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had Goddard hasn't played. Kittle hasn't played. No, wait till kicker day. I could have done that for years. There were a ton of kicks.
Oh yeah, that's just crazy. Tight ends are so bad.
Hey, they have their own holiday. What other position is so spectacular they made up their own holiday?
Yeah, I guess. If you say so. Whatever, man.
So give us some wisdom. Let's get out. Let's go. So I can process this video, process this podcast. Everybody, hopefully you'll know how I'm feeling in the morning based upon what you watch Sunday night. So give us some wisdom, JJ Wang.
Yeah, so my words of wisdom is I want to apologize to some people, like fans out there, maybe some people in the league. I haven't been the greatest fantasy player this year. Not as involved as I have been in I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm not able to watch as
You're
much
being
football.
A good dad.
On football on Sundays as I have been, but I will get back. I will get back to the top of the mountaintop. It's just been a struggle. We all go through it. But I will be back. I am okay. Still love fantasy. Ain't going nowhere. So as for always, trust yourself and trust the process.